What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? The Dbacks have dealt with so many injuries this year, but they have still persevered to the best record in baseball since June 1st. So, who has stepped up in the absence of others this season?
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we are actually doing a little crossover today. I was invited by the let me make sure I get their name right. I was invited by the 643 and Out Guys to be on the Sports Truth podcast. So this is our crossover together. They had me on as their gracious guest. We talked Dbacks baseball for 30 straight minutes. Who should be the 7-8-9? We talk about the Marlins game. We talk about players who have been stepping up in the absence of others and so much more. So let's jump into it. But before that, I first want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube.
Give me your 30-second impression of the game today, sir.
Oh, it was once again trying to hold off the pesky Miami Marlins, who almost gave us a scare in game one, but thankfully the D-backs were able to come through. Courtesy of Corbin Carroll, continues his power streak. Lourdes Gurriel tapped in some power today. We got some great defense. And of course, the closer, Justin Martinez, shut it down in the ninth.
All right, buddy. Well, you are excited here. So we are excited to have you. We're gonna jump into some great Diamondbacks talk here in just a moment. Like I said, Mike Valentine, Mitch Middlebrook, Millard Thomas here with us today. That is how you say it, right? Millard, right? I'm not going to mess your name up, right?
Millard.
How did you get Millard out of that?
You know, that's like the 13th president right there, Millard Fillmore.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's not that common, but yeah, we do got a president in our lineage, so shout out to him back in 18 whatever.
There you go. All right, Millard. Excellent. So, buddy, what a series. We're going to jump right into our Diamondbacks talk here. Mitch and I will stay right here with you. So what a difference a series makes, especially in the eyes of the fans, right? I mean, but realistically, what do the fans expect, right? You lost Gabriel Moreno, you lost Christian Walker, you've lost Ketel Marte, and, it's not that the offense is terrible, but it's also going to suffer just simply because you've lost those guys. So I'm going to ask Millard first, which of these players have been the most difficult one to replace? So do you think it's Ketel Marte with Blaze Alexander? We'll talk about a new addition they made here in just a little bit. Blaze Alexander is not even with the team right at the moment, but we'll get to that. How about Gabriel Moreno with Adrian Del Castillo or Christian Walker with Josh Bell? Which one of these three has been the hardest ones to replace? And since you're our special guest, sir, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's so easy. This one's an easy answer for me. It's a little bit of a layup. I have to go with the Ketel Marte Blaze. Not only is Ketel Marte the best player that we're missing, but also the downgrade is the biggest as well, because at least you still got established major league veteran Josh Bell for Christian Walker. And then Adrian Del Castillo has just taken baseball over in the few amount of games he's played since getting called up. So it's like you've gotten like 90% facsimile of the guys that were already there with your replacements. It's that Ketel Marte to Blaze Alexander drop off that hurts the most, because Marte in the second half of the season, I mean, he had an incredible first half, only turned it up in the second half. You look at the FanDuel odds, he's running away with second place in the MVP voting because, of course, Ohtani's the runaway favorite. But if you're talking about second place in the MVP voting, it's Ketel Marte. Then it's like a Grand Canyon in terms of the odds.
Mitch, what do you think, buddy? Which one of those three, Ketel Marte, Gabriel Moreno, Christian Walker, is the hardest one to replace right at the moment?
No, yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I think originally when you look at this list of names, you'd probably think Christian Walker, especially losing that defense. But Josh Bell is been really great for them, and obviously being a veteran presence, they don't lose as much there. Going from Cattell to Blaze, obviously a huge difference both in play and leadership, and kind of what they're bringing to the clubhouse. So yeah, definitely missing Cattell the most, but Christian Walker losing that defense hurts too.
So, gentlemen, they won 9 games in a row, mostly without those guys that we just talked about above. So, Walker's return is going to be late August, they're saying. Moreno is, quote unquote, weeks and not days, right? As far as what Torey Lobello has said when he got injured way back then. So, what are we going to do from point A to point B? Who's going to have to step up? And I copied this a little bit off of our special guest. I listened to his podcast today's podcast, and he was saying the same thing on his podcast, right? Which is Locked On Diamondbacks. Where can we get that at, Miller?
Yeah, wherever you stream podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, we're on everything.
Yeah, see, he's a big time guy. He's on everything. We're on one spot, but we'll get there, buddy. We'll get.
You guys are crushing it. I've seen your guys' work. You guys are crushing it.
Hey, I appreciate the compliment. I really do. I'm sure Mitch appreciates it as well. He's smiling behind that mustache. You just can't quite see it. Okay. So, how did they do it? How did they win 9 games in a row, Mitch, without these guys? Who stepped up? What did they do differently?
Well, it's really everybody stepping up. It's Corbin Carroll keeping that power going, and kind of getting back to where he was, last year in his outstanding rookie year. But it's everybody picking it up where they can. And this team, Jake McCarthy's had such a great year. But every piece is just stepping up where they need them to, especially right now. They've been on a tear since in the second half of the season. And they're obviously continuing that now. It's really good to see.
All right, Miller, give us your opinion, buddy. What have they done to make sure that they have been able to win all these games here? And like you said, they just won the first game against the Miami Marlins. They've now won the second game. We're going for a 3-game sweep again. What have they done with these guys out of the lineup?
Yeah, I think we've seen the Dbacks really tap into their power recently. That's not something that they had an abundance of last year. They're kind of middle of the pack. This season so far, you got Jock Peterson, who's been crushing it. He's having a him off with Jake McCarthy, who's also been one of the hottest hitters in Major League Baseball in the second half of the season. So now you got Corbin Carroll tapping into the power. Eugenio Suarez has really gotten going since July. I think you've seen some of your players who are struggling earlier in the year, the Carrolls, the Suarezes. Those guys are starting to get going. Now with the Martes and Walkers out, you're really seeing those guys shine. But I think the guy that we need to see step up the most is pretty much the only everyday D-backs player with a sub 100 WRC plus since June 29th. That is Lourdes Gurriel. He's the only guy you could look at, like every dude in the lineup has at least been average by WRC plus the last 2 months. Lourdes Gurriel is like the only one who hasn't. So if we can get his back going, we saw the home run in the game today against the Marlins. This offense still has an opportunity to go to another level, which is crazy to say considering they're number 1 in runs scored.
Right. WRC plus, look out. We're getting stats already. Weighted runs created plus. And Mr. Thomas down here pulling them things out for us. So
we go into Fangraphs every now and then. We dabble.
We dabble. I'm going to have to use that. Can I use that when going forward? We dabble. I kind of like that. All right. That's my free of charge thing for the day. All right. Good deal. All right. We have a comment up here, so let's get to that real fast. I didn't see it at first, so let's see what we got. We are going to show that to you. And if you guys would like to be part of the show, there it is right down there at the bottom. You can be. Simply put the comments up here in the top right-hand side, and you'll be able to be part of the show, as we'll show them here up on the air. Paula says the Diamondbacks are on fire.
Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers.
I want to look at this schedule for a second, gentlemen. I think this is going to be an interesting topic of conversation for a moment. Most fans see the schedule and cringe, right? I look at it as a real test and an opportunity for this Diamondback club to actually be able to control their own destiny. And if you'll give me just a second, I'm going to go through this schedule real fast. It's going to take me a moment, but I want to hit this home. So we got 3 in Miami, 3 in Boston. The homestand with 3 against the Mets, 4 against the Dodgers. Then we go 3 San Francisco. We do 3 at Houston. Then their first day off in that whole stretch. There's not many days off. Only 2 left in the regular season for the Diamondbacks. Then they have a homestand that gives you Texas for 2, Milwaukee for 3. Then they go at Colorado for 3. Then they go at Milwaukee for 4. Come back home, 3 with the Giants. There's their second off day. 3 versus the Padres. So if you take out the Miami series, and knowing in their final 34 games that 29 of their final 34 games are against teams with a winning record, what will the D-backs record be in those 34 games? Mitch, let's start with you, buddy. What's that record going to be in those 34 games?
Oof, that's going to be a tough stretch for them to finish out the season for sure, especially as you mentioned, only 2 off days until the end of the season. Wow. The exact record, I mean, it might be 34-0. They keep this streak up. No, it is going to be a really tough stretch for them, but the way they're playing right now, I think they're going to finish the season strong, especially if they can keep up what they're doing. Really the only 2 gimme series is going to be the Rockies and maybe just the Rockies. The Rangers, maybe the Astros might not be too difficult, but the rest of them, especially those 7 games against the Brewers, are going to be really crucial for this team to play well in.
Now wait a minute. Let me interrupt.
Not just because of the Brewers.
Yeah, but you see, our special guest doesn't know that Mitch Middlebrook is a big Milwaukee Brewers fan, even though he's got the Diamondback shirt on right now, and that's because we're all representing our stuff today because of what we're doing here. But he's a big Milwaukee Brewers fan. So Mitch, as I cut you off here, give me a number. What are they going to do? Give me a number. The last 34 games, and then I'm going to turn it over to Millard.
I guess if I had to.
Well, you have to, because I'm going to
22-12.
22-12. All right, let's take it down to our Locked On Diamondbacks guy. Let him tell us what's going on. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, the D-backs is not going to be an easy road. I actually talked a little bit about this on the podcast yesterday, because if you just sort best records in baseball since June 1st, D-backs number 1, but then 6 of the next 7 opponents after that are all teams the D-backs have to face down the stretch. So it's going to be a gauntlet. But I would like to think the D-backs have already gone through a gauntlet the last couple months, taking down the Dodgers, the Padres, the Phillies, the Guardians, the Royals. They've beaten all the best teams in Major League Baseball already. They have a 65% winning percentage since June 1st. So I would like to believe the D-backs are going to probably come down off that a little bit, especially with the injuries that we're seeing. I think the D-backs are going to finish right below 90 wins. I'm going to give them 89 wins and potentially that number 1 or number 2 wildcard spot. I don't know exactly what record that is. I think they have 71 wins right now. So let's add 18 more wins for the rest of the season.
All right. So your total is a little bit lower than Mitch's. I'm going to kind of go in between just because it's a nice round number. I'm going to give you 20 and 14 in the next 34. So, yes, it's a gauntlet. But I also believe, as I kind of did in the intro for this question here, I really think that you want to go into the playoffs playing the best teams and knowing you can beat those teams instead of kind of backing your way into the playoffs by playing miserable teams and being like, okay, well, we beat the bad ones. Anybody can beat the bad ones. It's can you beat the good ones? And we're going to find that out here over the next 34 games with the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks now have their rotation intact. So now that they have that rotation intact, how would you line up the 5 starters from 1 to 5? Let's start with our special guest here. So there's the question at the bottom of the screen. Now the Diamondbacks have the rotation intact. How would you line up those 5 starters from 1 to 5? Or let me give you a bonus, and I'm going to tease my answer here a little bit. Would you go 1 to 6? Go ahead, sir.
That is a good question. For me, if we're talking about the regular season, I will keep it with 6 just because right now I'm going with the Gallon, Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt, typical 1, 2, 3. I'm going
Mhm.
Erod number 4 for right now in regular season. Then I'll keep it to that 6-man rotation because Ryan Nelson has been so good this year. He's quite literally been the best D-backs pitcher over the last couple months. He has like a 2.7 ERA since like June 1st or whatever. Like he's been fantastic. Maybe that's since July 1st. I don't remember off the top of my head, but he's been so good for the D-backs recently. And for Jordan Montgomery, he's been more up and down. We can still use it as an audition for, do we want him in the postseason rotation? Do we even want to bring him back next season? So I think the 6-man rotation for the regular season is quality for right now. But then when you get to that postseason, I'm even opening up that number 4 door. I mean, Ryan Nelson really has been so good. Like, I think it should even be a conversation between he and Erod right now, because I don't want to just hand it to Erod. The contract says he should get it, but with the way Ryan Nelson has pitched this season, if he's actually better than Erod entering the playoffs, I think you have to give the ball to the better pitcher at that point of the year.
All right. I like what he said. Mitch, are you going to back him up, or are you going to go somewhere different, buddy?
No, yeah, I completely agree. They got to keep riding the hot hands, and just because the contracts of Erod and Jordan Montgomery doesn't mean we need to play them. If Ryan Nelson and Brandon Pfaadt keep doing what they're doing, these guys have proven themselves this year, especially that they can compete, and they are major league pitchers, and they've done a really good job. I don't think you can turn away from them now when we're getting to the end of the season and considering playoffs. I think you got to ride the hot hand and keep doing what we're doing. Definitely finished with the 6-man rotation to end the season, and then reevaluate in the playoffs. But I really think, especially if Ryan Nelson keeps up what he's doing, move him into the 4 spot, like Millard said, and move Erod back.
All right. So, well, I mean, we're all agreeing with Millard here a little bit, but I want to do at least for the time. Stop laughing. I want to do at least for the time being. I would like to entertain this thought of a 6-man rotation, if you would please. Why not? Why can't you save some of these innings, right? Because you had Zach Gallen, you had Kelly last year, who pitched, especially Gallen, who pitched a lot of innings. Why wouldn't you want to limit that if you can? And it's not like these are terrible starting pitchers. We've got a good group of starters here. And we've also got a really good bullpen. We'll talk about that here in just a moment as well. But, I mean, for me, I would go Gallen. And then I'm going to go Merrill Kelly second. I thought about that one for a few minutes, but, he's not pitched a whole lot. And he didn't look good the other night when he pitched.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 2.5, right? But you're right. Brandon Pfaadt needs to be number 3, and mainly because you need to reward the guys who have done well for you this entire season. And I'm actually going to put Erod at 4, Ryan Nelson at 5, or Ryan Nelson at 5. I always say Ryan, and it's spelled Ryne, right? We always always do that mixed up. And then Jordan Montgomery as kind of like a far away number 6, right? I would even be, when we get to the playoffs, I don't think Montgomery needs to start. I would bring Montgomery in as your long guy out of the bullpen in case one of the other guys has a bad outing. I would kind of save him back for that. But that's back in the playoffs and things like that.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
With the state of the bullpen, who are you doing for your 7, 8, and closer guys. Who is that going to be for you regular season, and does it change in the postseason as far as how you line up your bullpen? Mitch, let's start with you. I'm sorry, sir. I jumped the gun a little bit, but Mitch, go ahead, buddy.
Well, I think we're pretty much all going to be in agreement on this. These guys have kind of put themselves here, and it's not going to be any surprise. But 7, I think you got to go Thompson, 8 Gink, and then 9 Martinez. They've kind of solidified themselves here. It's good to see that they weren't hesitant to take Sewald out of that closer role when he struggled. I think a lot of teams are too hesitant to do that, and they let a guy struggle for too long. But no, I think these guys have kind of solidified their spots there, barring anything crazy and big stretches. Every guy's going to go out there and have a bad day every now and again, and you can live with that. But barring any like catastrophic meltdown, I think those are the 3 we'll see.
So now, wait, I know we're going to get off topic on this for just a second, but you don't think that Torey Lovullo was a little hesitant with Paul Sewald? You like him giving him the rope or the reins?
No, I think he definitely was. Probably gave him a little longer of a leash than he should have at times. But again, you don't know if it's a guy going out there and having a few bad outings, or if a guy got the yips. Whatever it may be. Maybe he's just not feeling it right now on the bump. But you got to do something to rebuild that confidence, and not just hope that sticking him in there to close out games when he can't get it done is going to fix it.
All right, Miller, what do you think about 7, 8, and the closer role, sir?
Yeah, definitely agree with my man Mitch. I guess the only question is if it's like my man. We're close now. We're close. I'm going to be his next +1 to the next wedding he goes to. So I'm looking forward.
Stop it.
But I guess the only question is if it's like the Phillies lineup, do you want to go like AJ Puck over Ryan Thompson if it's like more lefty? But you're definitely going with that 3 as your back end bullpen. The only problem is it doesn't always seem like Torey Lovullo knows like that should be his go-to 3. Like everyone on like Dbacks Twitter is like throw Thompson, throw Ginkel, throw Martinez every single night when you have a lead of 3 runs or less, and it doesn't seem like Torey Lovullo has gotten that message. So we would like to see him implement this strategy a little bit more. I think in the bullpen, the one guy we need to see step up a little bit more is Dylan Floro. Acquired him at the deadline. He's been the only guy who's been like the weak link. Everyone else in the bullpen, like I feel good about. Sewald, I don't like in the 9th. But outside of that, he's been solid in the 5th, 6th, even the 7th inning this season. You just can't use him as the closer. So for me, if Dylan Floro can pick it up, because right now he's like that Miguel Castro, Scott McGuff, like weakest link in the bullpen. If he can turn it around, like this is a grade A bullpen entering the postseason.
So then, Miller, do you think that there is a difference in being the closer and being the 6th and 7th inning guy? And if you do believe that, what is it?
I don't know if it's even something you could quantify. It just might be like one of those intangible like pressure things, because I definitely think there's a difference. I think you see with like the Ryan Thompson and the Kevin Ginkles, like those guys are absolutely shut down in the 7th and 8th inning. But whenever you've given Ginkel the closer role the last couple of years, he just doesn't seem to have it. We saw him begin the season as the closer with Sewald out. He didn't have it. And then as soon as we demoted Sewald and gave it to Ryan Thompson, all of a sudden he was giving up earned runs left and right. So I do think there's like a mentality thing for these pitchers, and maybe they feel like a certain pressure when they know like there's only 3 outs left. If I don't get it right now, like the game is going to extend, I could blow it. Like I just think there's a difference going from the 8th or 7th to the 9th inning. I don't know if it's like a thing you could even quantify, but I definitely think it's a thing that you can see when watching these pitchers.
All right, I'm going to go one more question, and I know it's not on the show notes, but I'm going to hit you with this because we're all professionals. So, if this is the way it really is in a bullpen, right? Then people can't maybe get those last 3 outs or so. What do you think about Martinez getting those last 3 outs, or do you think that one of the offseason things that the Diamondbacks really have to look at is to go out and get an established closer?
No, I think Martinez is the closer of the future. Paul Sewald, pending free agent. We'll even see if the D-backs want to bring him back. But the stuff that Martinez has, I mean, there's not many guys throwing 104 consistently like he is with the splitter that he has. All his stuff is nasty, and he's pitching at like the highest level he can right now. So I think Martinez, he's like, I don't know, off the top of my head, like 22, 23 years old. I actually have it pulled up right here. Let's see how old he is. He's 23. So I definitely think he could be the D-backs closer potentially the next decade if everything breaks right.
Right. And ladies and gentlemen, that is what a professional studio looks like. He's got the background all beautiful and he's got all the stats right there in front of him. That's what a professional studio looks like. We're still amateurs, the two guys up here at the top. Okay. So I do want to give Ginkel his credit, though. 31 of his last 36 appearances have been no runs. So Ginkel has done well in that role. Mitch, what about the closer? Do you like Martinez there? Do you not like Martinez there?
No, yeah, I do like Martinez there. I think he's risen to the challenge, and it's really good to see. I think it's his job until it's not. His job to lose, definitely. Being so young, if they can get a good relationship with Martinez and keep him in Arizona, I think they'll get a really, really good return on that.
All right, and then I want to ask you about the closer part that I also asked Millard as well. So, is it a different mindset to be a closer? Is it just those final 3 outs that mess with people's heads? Or what is it from 7, 8 to 9?
It really is. I think it comes down to the mindset of it and just being able to kind of turn it off when you're up there. Some guys, you get up there and you're trying to get those final 3 outs and the pressure is just too much. Maybe most nights you can handle it. Maybe you have it for a while and then you lose it. But you kind of see that with Sewald, where he had it for a while, he kind of lost it. If you can build that confidence back up and slot him back in there, then that's great. But sometimes you just can't get it back, and the confidence is shattered beyond repair. And you start putting him in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and he's going to crush it. But every time he now goes back out in the 9th after losing that closer role, it's going to be sitting in the back of his head like, oh, man, they yanked me from this spot before. If I don't produce and close this game out, I'm going to lose it again. And sometimes that can be too much.
All right. Once again, you guys can go up to the top right-hand corner, click on the comment section, put your comments in. We'll put them up here on the screen with us. We'd love it when you guys are interacting with us here on the Sports Truth. So today, the Diamondbacks actually made a move. I'm not sure if I understand this. I think I do, and I'm going to kind of explain everything, and then I'm going to ask both of you for your opinions here. So today, the Diamondbacks signed infielder Luis Guillorme. It was his 3rd club so far this year. He's been with Atlanta, and he's been with the Angels. He only hit his slash line 218, 285, 290. And that's what he's done so far this year with those 2 teams. That means a weighted run created plus. Here we go with our little stats again. Weighted runs created plus of only 63, and 100 is average. His career is only a 70 weighted runs created plus. And if you look at that, you're like, what in the world are the Diamondbacks doing? Why are they signing him? And why did they demote Blaze Alexander? Well, if you look at it this way, let me give you what these guys do. And both of you know this, and this is kind of where I want the comments on from both of you, because the Diamondbacks love to do matchups, right? They love matchups. Guillorme hits a 98 weighted runs created plus against righties, and Kevin Newman hits a 98 weighted runs created plus against lefties. So they're going to use that matchup while Ketel Marte is not in the lineup. Do you like this move? Do you not like this move? Amar, we're going to start with you, buddy.
Yeah, for me, I just think it's like a nothing move just to get a body in to hold it down until Ketel Marte gets back. I mean, you said the stats. He's not a very good player. It's like when the Dbacks bring in our old friend like Sergio Alcantara. Like, you just got to get him in there for a couple of weeks, get him a couple at bats, and then you're going to send him packing once again. So for Guillermo, things exactly like you said. Torey Lovello is obsessed with the platoons. We know Kevin's going to go out there bat against lefties, and we know we're going to see Luis against righties. And then that's going to be the formula until Marte hopefully comes back very soon.
Hopefully that is correct. Mitch, what do you think about that pickup today that the Diamondbacks made?
No, yeah, I think that's spot on. They don't expect him to come in and do anything serious for him. Just kind of right the ship and smooth out things until Ketel can come back. But yeah, they're going to be platooning it, obviously, but they really aren't expecting much, I'm sure, out of a guy like Guillorme. They just hope he can be serviceable.
All right. So now I will give him this. Arizona does only pay a prorated portion of the $740,000 that he's owed. And if they like him and if he stays on the roster through the end of the season, they can also keep him because he can go through the arbitration process at the end of the season, and I'm sure he'll be cheap. Now, whether they'll want him, I see that face, buddy. So whether they want him or not is a different story, but they can, gives them the option of being able to get another cheap outfielder if that's what they are after. So we've done all of this. We've said everything that we need to say, I think. Now here comes the big question. Let's put it at the bottom of the screen. Here it is. Are the Diamondbacks equipped to make a postseason run? Mitch, let's start with you, bud.
Yeah, definitely. The roster is constructed exactly how they want it, minus the injuries. Hopefully they start getting these guys back and are at full strength when the postseason rolls around. But yeah, this roster is constructed exactly the way they want it to be. They are poised to make a postseason run for sure, especially with all the different parts meshing like they are right now. If you run into the Diamondbacks in the postseason, just like last year, they're going to be a really hard team to knock out.
All right. How about our special guest down below? What do you think, sir?
Oh, yeah, totally agree with Mitch. I mean, are the D-backs maybe the scariest team in terms of, like, if you're another opponent, like you're the Phillies or the Dodgers, like, is everyone like the team on the number one of my list that I don't want to face in the postseason? Is that the D-backs for like everyone across the board? Because we saw the D-backs going to LA last year, knock them out. We saw them going to Philly, knock them out. Like, home field does not matter to the D-backs. This team can travel anywhere. And you took last year's World Series team and you added to it. You don't have the statue of Evan Longoria any longer yet. You got Eugenio Suarez out there now. You added to your rotation with Erod and Monty, and then all of a sudden Ryan Nelson stepping up. Your bullpen is deeper than ever. I just think you have so much depth at every phase of this team. I think they're truly built for the playoffs, and I think they're the scariest team entering the playoffs right now.
All right, so we're going to go to church for a moment, all right? We've never done this on the show before. This is the only time I think we're ever going to do this. But, we got a very special guest with us today, and we're going to go to church for a moment. So I'm going to ask a question, and if you believe that is correct, you're just going to say amen, right? All right, here we go. All right, so can the Diamondbacks, and are they equipped to make a deep postseason run? And we all say amen, right?
Amen.
All right, here we go. Can they make it back to the World Series?
Amen.
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 Look at that, all three of us. Okay, good. And I do agree with that. I think they can go back, and we'll go to church for a second, and then we'll hide this question at the bottom real quick. But yes, I do believe that. I even like Mr. Thomas's coming out here and saying, aren't they the scariest team? And I didn't really think about him as far as the scary team. I'm looking at them because I'm a fan of this team. So I'm like, okay, keep going, keep rocking, But yeah, if I'm other teams, now I do want to say, and it's not just because Mitch is here, I think Milwaukee's a little bit of a scary team too, because I look at that team and I keep thinking, how in the world do they keep winning? I understand how the Diamondbacks are winning. They got the best offense in baseball, and they've now got their pitching back. But Milwaukee doesn't. And we're going to talk about Milwaukee here a little bit more when we get into our actual generalized baseball segment here of the show. So I think Milwaukee is also a dangerous team.
Mitch is not going to like my Milwaukee take, unfortunately. I don't have Milwaukee.
Well, I mean, I can be a fan and also be, critical. And that offense is nothing to be scared of. I mean, they get hot and they get cold. And in the playoffs, you got to be as steady as you can. If they go out and they get cold like they always do in the postseason, they could easily be swept and have a series stolen from them. So I think that's the difference why people won't be as scared of Milwaukee. You always have to be scared of an offense, even if you're not scared of their back end of the bullpen or their starting pitchers would, if they can score runs, they're always going to be in games. So I think that's what's so scary about the Diamondbacks, and you don't have that with Milwaukee.
Well, all right, those are my thoughts right there. Perfect. Yep.
Oh, wow. He's not gonna smash you anymore. He's just gonna leave that alone. See, that's a gracious host right there, a gracious guest. And then last thing here, Paula wants to go to church too because she says amen as well. All right. Yes. Praise God. All right. So last thing for our guest right at the moment. Once again, sir, tell us where you are, what you do. Give us everything, buddy.
Yeah, Millard Thomas, host of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast and a graphic designer. Go check my website, millardthomas24.marportfolio.com to see all my latest work. Catch the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast wherever you stream podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and don't forget to hit Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube as well, please. That's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.